Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is I, your host, Mr. Sean, here with more RPG horror stories. Today we're going to take a look at some bad behavior at the tabletop, but before we do that, let's look at something that's good to add to yours. That's right, Chimera Miniatures, the custom miniatures made by me, Mr. Sean. Whether you're looking for a completely unique monster or just some characters with their tits out, Chimera Miniatures has the minis you need to make your tabletop truly spectacular. Let's take a quick look at some of these minis. Up first, we have the repaint of Colonel Sunder. That is, of course, the evil Colonel Sanders from Earth 3, who prides himself on making chicken the easy way. But maybe you're not satisfied with simple repaint, so here we have the figure I made in honor of the new Marvel show Secret Invasion, which I like to call Dave from Accounting, or as his base says, the Skrull Infiltrator. Maybe you're looking for something a little more nostalgic. Oh, is that Mr. Grimm from the Twisted Metal series? And finally, if you're looking for something a little spicier for your tabletop, here we have a repainted veteran Snowbird clique from the Mutant Mayhem series, a vintage hero clique, I might add, who has been repainted to be featuring slightly less clothing. All this and more can be found on my eBay, Etsy, and Mercari. If you don't feel like buying any minis but would like to support the channel, there is also always my Patreon. Links are in the description. And without further ado, let's read some stories. Our first story today was posted to my own subreddit, r/Chimera Miniatures. You can post any stories you'd like me to read there, as well as on my other subreddit, r/Mr. Sean Reads Stories. This particular story comes from our old friend Art Monzo and is entitled, "The Dino Spider-Man COVID Meme Gets Me Labeled a Furry Fiend at a Game Tryout." Content warning for mentions of sexual and political I think that means content, I think that's a typo. So I was looking to play anything other than D&D. I found a Discord server around sci-fi TTRPGs. I talked with some of the people there and posted a few memes when I saw someone posted an ad for a game with a roaming game date. I DM'd the guy, let's call 4 Clowns. In retrospect, the man posted some pretty 4chan-ish memes and jokes. Plus, his icon was that of the clown from Space Station 13, which has some interesting people around it. I'll be honest, Art Monzo, I am not familiar with Space Station 13 or the clown, and even after looking it up, I still don't really know what it is. Anyway, back to the story. The interview went well enough, and we talked about games we played, what books were allowed, and some sci-fi media we had consumed. That was when he started looking at my post history and found that I posted the modified, "But I don't want to cure cancer, I want to turn people into dinosaurs," Spider-Man meme. The changes being it was COVID instead of cancer and gators instead of dinosaurs, based on a right-wing South American politician telling people not to get the vax unless you want to be turned into crocs. Had to look that one up too. 4 Clowns withdraws his invite to the game, saying that he has a strict rule against zoophilic, xenophilic, and furry fetish ERP. That the group is made up of good people with good values and form this group as a safe space from your ungodly kind. I tell him it was just a meme, a joke, and he just said unlikely story and told me to yiff in hell. I told him thank you for your time, and his last message was telling me that Walmart had bleach on sale, not to guzzle down as he knows it's a popular beverage for your kind, but just wanted to let you know as I seem like someone who is unclean. I ended up finding a play-by-post on the same server and having fun with it. I try not to interact with 4 Clowns as much as I can. He seems to just be posting 4chan cringe, and that when he gets called out on that is just a joke, or still hogging a channel on ship making and giving harsh criticism to anyone else who tries to post there other than himself. TLDR, get called a furry and kicked from a game before it even starts for posting a meme on a sci-fi channel by a literal clown. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think he was just trying to find something in your post history that he could somehow use to troll you. The guy, he doesn't sound like a clown, he sounds like a straight up troll. I bet he was probably just looking for something some reason to call you something, because that's what he likes doing. I mean, that's why I don't tend to play with internet strangers. Our next story comes from user Faladir and is called Isekai Campaign Gone Wrong, and it is tagged Not Safe for Work. A couple years back, I got the idea to DM an isekai campaign for some friends. they would have to roleplay as themselves, as they would find themselves transported to a mysterious world as the heroes of prophecy, with the premise simply being, what would you do if you woke up with magical powers in another world? Or to put it differently, in a world where you wake up with magical fucking powers, do you be the good guy, or do you become a total piece of shit? Sorry, that was my own little addition. So all my players started with their own knowledge and experience, with characters and stats largely based on themselves, enhanced with the powers of the class of their choice. Whew, I would hate to see my actual strength and wisdom scores if I had to make a character based on me. The players chose Paladin, Bard, and Wizard. All went well, until 3 sessions in, the Paladin went down for the first time while routing some goblins. The others managed to stabilize him, but after the session, this happened. Paladin: "Hey DM, I think my character would be evil now." Me? What? Paladin: Yeah, almost dying would fuck me up, so I would be really selfish and not care anymore after that." Me, slightly worried: "Sure?" After that, the Paladin became an agent of chaos, sowing as much mayhem as he could. Meanwhile, we had another player get ready to join as a Warlock. Me: Warlocks get to choose their subclass at first level. Which one do you want? Warlock: "No, the Fiend sounds cool." Me: The Dark One is the equivalent of the Devil in my campaign, so you'd literally be making a deal with the Devil. Warlock: "Awesome!" Me: "You know that you have to roleplay as yourself, right?" Warlock: "Yep." Me: Warlock: "Me." Well, okay then. I had planned on the Dark One trying to corrupt the Warlock, but without any nudging, the Warlock bamboozled innocent shopkeepers by disguising himself, transforming his packed weapon into an ornate blade, then selling said blade, sabotaged a rescue mission because he was bribed, and lured an acolyte monk to a vampire lord to curry favor with said vampire lord. I mean, yeah, you get shitty people to roleplay themselves, they're gonna roleplay shitty people. So after just a couple of sessions, Bard and Wizard noticed Paladin and Warlock had gone full evil, and I got to witness them pretend to work together while both factions trying to screw the other one over. I feel like this concept is going to ruin your friendships. But when they got the opportunity to become king, even the Wizard succumbed to the lure of power. They were supposed to help the rightful prince become king, but Warlock and Wizard decided they'd rather be king themselves. The Wizard, not trying to lose to Warlock, believed he could not let Warlock become king, bribed the male judge with sexual favors and all sorts of other tricks. He won, but at the price of his integrity, because a few sessions later, when he was attacked by the revenant of the previous king, he used his 11 guards as literal meat shields, having ordered them to sacrifice themselves for him. During the following downtime, the Warlock and Paladin split from the party to gain more power but got greedy and died, which resulted in the others perishing as well, ending the campaign. All in all, we had a lot of fun, disturbing as it was, but I'm no longer friends with Warlock and Paladin because apparently they were very true to their character and campaign, but that's another story. Wizard is one of my best friends now, but we joke to never put him in a position of power IRL. I mean, yeah, I called it. Shitty people play shitty people if they're role-playing as themselves. Sorry to hear that, you're not friends with those guys anymore and they turned out to be IRL evil, but, I mean, at least the campaign ended okay. I was definitely expecting it to go, more negatively off the rails and less just in like a zany, fun kind of way, but yeah, the fact that you had 2 people that wanted to straight up roleplay as themselves, realistically, and evil, that's a red flag. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and do one more before we call it a day with this video, and this next and final story comes from user That Water American, and is called Party Refuses the Call to Adventure, Calls the Police Instead. Tagged, Not Safe for Work. The call to adventure is always the hardest thing when starting out a game. I mean, you gotta give people like a reason to care. I mean, I understand they're gonna kind of like just go with the flow, at least at the start, but it's like, I definitely want to give them a realistic reason to join the adventure, and that's the hardest thing for me as a DM, but let's see what happened with That Water American's experience. I was excited to have my regular group try a Call of Cthulhu one-shot. I had hosted a few Call of Cthulhu games before, just not for this group. This was also the first time our forever DM, the one from all my other stories, was a player character. I spent hours on prep and felt like a fucking idiot. Party were all college professors whose colleague had gone missing. They went to his office and found a bunch of evidence sending them to various leads. Specific names and addresses, hands out letters I made, puzzles to solve, the usual plot hooks. The other players start pouring through the evidence and picking up the name when Forever DM says, "This is a crime scene. I call 911. 911 will not exist for almost 40 years. Then we should leave without touching anything. Go to the police station." I reiterate that there is no evidence a crime occurred. It's a normal office, and they're ruffling through papers. There's no evidence of foul play yet. Moreover, forensics is a new field at this time, and they would not be familiar with evidence procedure. The other players agree that talking to police is what their characters would do, so I break character to tell them they can explore the police as an option, but the adventure will inevitably require them to pick up the pieces. When they get to the police station, I describe drunks, hookers, and mobsters awaiting processing. There's no direct evidence the guy is missing or in danger, and his wife hasn't reported him missing. Police don't give them the time of day. The police tell them to check in with the wife if they're concerned, and they give the party a home address. The party doesn't do anything with this. I even have them do an idea roll to tell them to go to the address. Forever DM says, "I open a phone book and find the number of a private detective." The story takes place in New Orleans, so I can't say there is no detective nearby. Instead, I try to price them out of it. The detective is only interested in cheating couples, so he asks for $50 a week. The party members each make $20 to $40 a week, so he is asking for about half their total income. Forever DM says everyone can pool their money together, and the others shrug and go along with it. At this point, the gears start turning for how I can pivot this back to the adventure and raise the stakes, so I go along with it. The detective takes their case and says he'll give an update in a week. The party does nothing in this time. A week later, the professor is still missing. The party calls the detective, but he doesn't answer the phone. The next day, they go to his office to give him the next payment. The window is smashed, the door is cracked, the room was tumbled. They find all the evidence from the professor's office strewn about the room, some notes from the detective that gives them some direct next steps, mentioning a specific archaeology artifact, a location, and a person of interest. Hint, hint. But no sign of the detective. I thought this would push the party to investigate now that they were essentially out of options right back where they started. I gave them another idea roll and directly told them to follow up with the person of interest at the museum. The Forever DM says, "This is officially above our pay grade. Now we definitely need to go to the police station to report." I looked to the rest of the other two party members since they had acquiesced to his reasoning. I told them in a meta sense that this isn't going anywhere. If they don't pick up the pieces, there is no adventure. Forever DM literally says, "It's what my character would do." I told the party that this is the game, and the characters need to be willing to take risks or accept the call to adventure. If they don't, then we're done. The Forever DM says, "I just don't see the hook. I don't see what's supposed to drive a college professor to accept this kind of danger. I think I'd like it to end here." And that was it. I did a week of prep, hand-wrote notes, made maps, etc. to have our Forever DM give me the runaround and yank my chain after directly telling him and the others to play the game twice. Afterward, the other two players told me they didn't feel they, the players, were clever enough to solve the case, especially since the combat isn't as cartoonish as 5e. I retorted that they didn't even try, and that I had given them multiple idea rolls to give them direction, so we closed the books and played Munchkin instead. I was incredibly embarrassed. OP, I have not read your other stories, but I definitely want to after this one, but I think we figured out why your Forever DM is a Forever DM. I would absolutely love to play Call of Cthulhu, and by that I mean play. I am a Forever DM myself, and I would jump at the chance to play Call of Cthulhu. I've had some offers from my friends for me to run Call of Cthulhu, but that just means more books to get and more rules for me to learn and more stories for me to be in charge of. I would jump at the chance for somebody to run a campaign where I just got to play, and I would definitely accept that call of adventure, no matter how ridiculous it might seem. The fact that your DM actively tried to derail the game and kind of more or less bullied the other players into doing it as well. I mean, they didn't seem... Maybe Call of Cthulhu just isn't this group's game, but either way, you put all the effort to put this together, they agreed to play, and it'd be like if the adventurers in D&D just called the town guard. That's the whole thing. You know, I like to call my DM style yes and DMing, and I kind of think I'd apply that as a player as well. It's like, yeah, it might not make in real life sense to accept the call to adventure, but ultimately you have to do it. And if your DM is this insufferable as a player, I think I know why they run the game now, because nobody wants them as a player at their table, or maybe they just don't like not having absolute control over everything. I don't know. I'm going to read some of your stories in the future, probably, and I'll see if my opinion of the guy changes, but thank you for sharing this story. And that's going to be our video today, guys. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank all of the users who shared their stories for sharing. And if you have a story you would like to share, it doesn't have to be an RPG story, just any story you'd like to hear me narrate, please go to my subreddits, r/Mr. Sean Reads Stories or r/Chimera Miniatures, and share it there, and maybe it'll show up on here. But until next time, guys, I'm Mr. Sean, this is Chimera Miniatures, and I sincerely hope that you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye!